Sure.
Once again.
Get ready to get inspired.
This is the Go4TheGoldy podcast.
Hey, and welcome to episode 33 of the show. It's Wednesday, April 28th, and live from down here in Frisco, Texas. I'm joined by nutritionist, fellow member of the On Run crew, and endurance athlete, and our neighbor to the north, joining us from Ontario, Canada, Brittany Dunbar. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy that you were able to join me, and again, yet another person who, when I was in trouble a couple weeks ago with a guest, you jumped right in and said I can be available for you when you need me. So here we are.
Yes, yeah, no, it's exciting.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just right off the bat, let's get a quick intro from you. First and foremost, basically, just give the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been a nutritionist for a few years now. I did my underschool all here in Ontario. So I did an undergrad in phys ed. I did a master's degree focusing on protein, and then pursued a postgrad program in nutrition. So that's kind of that background. I also am a trainer as well. And then from an athlete perspective, I've been an athlete my entire life. I've been running cross country since I was grade 3 up until my 5th year eligibility in university. So I ran and swam varsity for Brock. I swam only a couple years, but I did running the whole 5 years I was able to do. And then on top of that, I've been doing triathlon for 16 years and have raced everything from the sprint distance to 2 Ironmans. So I'm quite versed in that area as well. And I love doing triathlons. I love the diversity of it. So it keeps me coming back.
That's great. I mean, there's definitely a lot to unpack there. So for those listening, you can tell why I was very excited to talk to her. So right off the bat, I mean, I think with talking about nutritionists, I just want to be clear. Like, sometimes there's a blending of like nutritionists and like just Instagram people who are talking about fads, right? I see you rolling your eyes,
Yeah.
And I definitely wanted to make it clear right off the bat, like you're a legit. Like there's not many nutritionists, at least in the United States, and I'm sure in Canada it's probably the same way. Yeah. So if you want to like talk about that a little bit, what's the difference between obviously you listed all your achievements in education and everything, but I just want to make it clear that you are very, very well versed in knowledge and knowledgeable in all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and that's just it right there. It's the knowledge. So, I mean, some people are the Instagram influencers. They're great. Nothing against them at all if they're able to live their life and be happy and all that good stuff. But when it comes down to real health and real sport performance, you need to have that knowledge to help somebody really make a positive impact on their life. So that's where that education comes into effect. And I work with a lot of actually triathletes and cyclists because that's where my personal background is in sports. So I'm able to help those people tremendously improve their performance because really, to be told, I've already made all the mistakes that they're going to make or they've already made as well, especially in my younger years. So you learn upon that. And so really what I try to do is educate my clients, but also I keep reading. I keep up to date with the knowledge and the literature and see what's evolving and what's becoming good and what maybe we should be left behind and whatnot. So that's one of the main differences for sure.
Yeah, that's clutch. I think that's, I mean, to give it in like an example that I think it's, kind of similar to is you go to the gym and you'll see these like old bodybuilder guys and they'll just do like, they're talking about stuff from the 70s that they were doing or the 80s, and it's like, okay, that's like anecdotal, worked for you or whatever, but like things change incredibly, day to day even sometimes, so.
Yeah, exactly. Things change, and also the products that we have accessible to us now, oh my gosh, are totally different than what we had back in the day. We joke that people would go to Ironman races and be literally eating like pasta or sandwiches on the course. And now we have these bottles, these gels, things are much more accessible to us. So kind of going back, from like the 70s, 80s to where we are now is different.
So I was raised, in the right way. You never ask a girl their age, so I'm not going to do that. But I will ask you, what came first? Because you said you've been doing triathlon for 16 years. So what came first? Did your, passion for nutrition start there, and then you started to dabble in different ways to propel you when you were doing endurance sports, or were you doing endurance sports first, and then you were like, hey, I want to figure out kind of how I can, get better or better help other athletes?
Okay, so yeah, I definitely came from sport first and then education. When I was younger in my teenager years, I was definitely very cautious about what I put into my body. As I got older and became more knowledgeable, now the only problem is some of that knowledge wasn't necessarily the right way to go about things. I would cut out all beef because I thought, beef would make you fat, and that's not the case, right? Like I love eating steak nowadays, especially. So, but I'd eat like little slices of bread, and just I would go about things the wrong way. Like I started to make the right choices. I would eat, real food versus like junk food, but maybe it wasn't enough. And I kind of went through a period it was called the female athlete triad. It's now really termed as relative energy deficiency in sport. And it's a topic that I really do share with a lot of my athletes that I work with. And it's about not fueling enough for performance. So we see all these catastrophic changes that go on internally and externally within the body. So then kind of as I got through my schooling, I was like, like nutrition, that's an area that you can make a huge impact with people, whether it's for sport performance or weight loss. We can run all the miles we want, but if we're not fueling right to either lead to weight loss or lead to performance, depending on if it's an athlete or the weekend warrior, that nutrition needs to be there. And I feel like that's where you can make the biggest impact in someone's life in a positive way.
Now, do you think this is just like a personal question, but I'm a sprinter, so I like not to say that like I couldn't do an Olympic or whatever, but like I'm super competitive, so I really like to just go as hard as I can for that hour. You know what I mean? Like now I can imagine like an endurance, like an Ironman event or something like that, an ultra marathon. Is that something that is nutrition more important in events like that, or it's like there's a taxation on your body? Because I feel like this is just personally, but like an hour sprint, I feel like I can push through that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to hit that crazy wall. Whereas like if you're running a marathon, you could die at mile 13.
It's true. Yeah, and you are right. So so anything under that 90 minutes or less, you can generally get away with whatever you had for breakfast or whatever you had for lunch before a training or a race event. But once you get into that longer stuff is when it becomes more important to fuel on the bike or on the run itself. 90 minutes or less is general rule of thumb you can get by. Anything longer than that, we need to start fueling.
Gotcha.
During. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're an endurance athlete, like say you're an Ironman or half, Ironman, listening to this, Iron Woman, do you say that? I don't even know what the correct terminology is.
You know what? I still call it Ironman. I know. Who knows the way the world's going to go, but I'm still Ironman.
I don't want to offend anybody, so it wasn't on purpose. But either way.
Totally.
Is there a specific, I guess, what are general rules to live by if you're training for something like that? Is there a specific diet, or are there just general guidelines or rules that you suggest paying attention to?
Yeah, it's very individualized for the person. In terms of a diet, or like your nutrition plan on an everyday basis, that's going to be based a lot on like your weight and your height, because we're not going to give somebody who weighs 200 pounds the same that we're going to give to, say, a female that's 130 pounds. Very different diet macronutrient needs. So that's when it becomes a lot more specific. We generally work in grams per kilogram of body weight. So whether it be 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight or 5 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight. And that will go up, especially for carbs, it'll go up based on the amount of activity the athlete's doing in a day. Now, when we flip over to like racing or endurance training, where you're getting into that 3, 4, 5 hour days, we generally will then just switch to a kind of a base amount of anywhere from 40 to 60, 70, 80 grams per hour of carbohydrates. And it's mainly the carbs that we're using. That's what's quickly absorbed in our body. It gets into our muscles, provides like glycogen, or gets to the glycogen stores, and we're able to use that for energy.
Interesting. Okay, So here's a question for you. In terms of like nowadays, I feel, at least personally, when you open one door of like when you question something and you kind of research that topic, that opens like 50 more questions. And then
you get down the rabbit hole.
Exactly. And then you go into like those questions, and all of a sudden you're just more confused than when you started. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, do you like, I know there's this like, do you know who Mark Sisson is? If you come across him yet? Mark Sisson.
No.
So he's an endurance athlete. He's a little older. He's like 60 something, I think. But this dude's
Okay.
like freaking shredded, and he's a carnivore guy, and he's an Ironman, and he like starts to talk about I don't know if it's anecdotal. I mean, he has books written on it, and apparently he's very knowledgeable on this topic. But he talks about how carbs, like in endurance training, may have been like a not false premise, but like there may be a way to eat, with very minimal carbs, keto like in endurance sports too. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's a pretty new school of thought, right?
It is definitely, the research is very early on that kind of stuff. And we, I guess, experience and take
hold on,
that across.
we lost you for like 1 second there, so go back. If you could start over again, I'm sorry.
Sure,
I'm going to make sure I hear all this.
Yeah, so in terms of the question, I mean, one person's experience and transfer that across millions of other people. And for him, it really would have been about training his body to do that. And sure, that takes time. When people go keto, they talk about the fuzzy part, like the fuzzy time in the brain before you actually turn into being fully in ketosis. So for him, it's about like kind of building that. And I mean, overall, for most people, and a lot of the research is still very much into, needing the carbohydrates for performance. It'd be interesting to take him and maybe reintroduce carbs to his diet and see if he performed better, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe it'll be worse because he's just used to taking in solely protein sources.
Yeah, like a control, geez, I'm blanking.
Diet.
But yeah. So it's funny, last Saturday, I had two friends over, and it wound up they were just arguing at each other because one was like, I did keto, I felt great, I loved it, and then I had someone else, in the same room arguing with that person going, no, that's one of the worst things you could ever do is small meals every couple hours, keep the body fuel and metabolism going. And I've heard both of them right, and that's what I'm talking about. When you go down the rabbit hole, it's just everyone swears by everything, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So if you get someone like that, I mean, where do you start with someone when someone comes to you for nutrition advice? I mean, where do you even begin?
Generally, well, first off, getting a food frequency or a food history from them. So taking in about 4 or 5 days. And if it is an athlete that's an endurance athlete, I'll get one of their heavy training days in there too, match it up and see, okay, what are we low in and what are your goals? So if your goal is to, do an Ironman race, or I have another athlete who's going to do a 100-mile gravel race, it's a matter of like, hey, what do we need to get you to the start line healthy, and what do we need to do to get you through the race healthy? Not bonking, staying hydrated, staying fueled enough so that you have power from start to finish. So it's about kind of like it's almost like a puzzle. Like you're slowly bringing all the pieces together, that, filling out an intake form to really understand who that athlete is. What's their job like? What's their sleep like? Are they doing regular bowel movements? So like getting into like literally the nitty gritty information of that person so that we can help them. Because if you're not having bowel movements, well, what else is going on in the body that's not functioning properly?
That's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that like I don't think you think of. You just kind of like, I think everyone's looking, and this obviously is going to spill into like every part of life, but I think a lot of people are just looking for that quick and easy, black and white, easy fix, and it's just simply not going to ever be that, right?
No, and if it is, then no one would need a nutritionist, right? We'd all have the answers and we'd be good to go. But unfortunately, that's not the case. We have people who are looking to lose weight. We have people who are looking to gain weight. And we have those who are looking just to sustain weight, but they want to increase power output.
Interesting. Now, do you ever do any of the those blood tests that I think like a blood profile is it called, or what?
Yeah. So if an athlete has one that's pretty recent, then I'll definitely take a look at it to help with some things. I use an app called Chronometer, which is a nutrition app. It's Canadian, funny enough, but it says it kind of actually gives a lot of micronutrient profiles too for what they're getting through their diet. So we can also pick away certain things. If they're complaining about cramping, magnesium's the first thing that comes to my mind. I look at that to see if are they getting enough. Are they really like achy and sore and really shouldn't be? Are we looking at omega-3s, vitamin D, calcium, all sorts of different things to kind of come together. But the blood work is obviously kind of like that gold standard of what's going on in the body. And if we can get a handle on one and they're willing to get one, then 100%. It helps a lot.
Do you typically see any and this is just like a generalization, but any general issues, like, for instance, in America, everybody's fat and everyone's eating sugar all the time. But you know what I mean? Like, do you ever see any type of, like, overriding issues that you see common with people that I guess it's a pretty tough question, but is there anything that you see, like, a general, just like people doing, and you're like, oh my God, I wish I could get this information out to the masses to tell people not to do this?
Yeah, I would say, you know what? So for a general population, the number one thing people say to me is, "Oh, I eat really healthy. I feel I eat, whole foods and stuff." I'm like, "Okay, let's take a look at your intake." And sure, some things are, but then when you're eating like 4 tablespoons of peanut butter for breakfast, I'm like, that's 400 calories. Let alone, let's add the toast and the coffee you're having with cream. Like, yes, peanut butter is healthy, but it's the quantities that we're eating of things. Yeah. So it's not only just the food itself, if they think they're eating healthy, but they're really not. Or they're just eating too much of something. That's the first one. And then the other one is protein. So, I mean, I am a bit biased. My master's was in protein specifically, but a lot of people aren't getting enough protein in their diet. So we want that to help build the muscle, especially if you're doing any kind of strength training. We want it to help also just with like hormone balance and everything. So yeah, protein, I would say, for both athletes and non-athletes, is the number one thing that I see as a weakness.
Now, when you talk about a diet, like an overall diet, especially in athletes, in the athlete world, timing's pretty important about when you eat things too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for sure, you want to make sure that you're fueled going into our training session, and definitely after. People talk about doing fasted workouts, totally fine, but kind of sticking it under that 90 minutes. So even just like when we're talking about in-field training, fasted workouts are great. You can definitely do them. They have a purpose in a training cycle, but you do want to kind of stick to anything under 90 minutes, or also one of your easier days. So you're not going to go out and do your sprints, like you say, go all out, like let's give her for an hour. Not going to be as effective. It's more of those days where you're doing like not even a tempo workout, maybe just a recovery workout. You can do it fasted and get away. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, what are your? You mentioned it just there, like fasted workouts. That seems to be a brand new, not brand new, but more trendy phase. Yeah.
You got the word right away. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think like there's a benefit to that kind of stuff?
Honestly, it has a purpose for many people. I'm a big believer if it helps that person stop eating. So like usually, we're talking about like intermittent fasting or just fasted workouts?
Like intermittent fasting, like the
yeah. Okay, that's what I figured you were getting at. Yeah,
8 off, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So for somebody who has a hard time, they're full, they've had dinner, and then still at like 9 o'clock, they're reaching for chips or cookies. If it helps that person say like, you know what, I'm done for the day, like I'm not getting that, then 100% it has a purpose. No matter how you word it, it's still a diet. So if you're trying to get away from like a diet culture kind of thing, then, eating and just being in control of your body throughout the day, that's one way. But having, that 10 a.m., you break your fast, and then, 7 p.m. is when you stop eating. If that helps that person control their day, then huge believer, like that's fine. Gotcha. From an athlete perspective, it might be a little more difficult in terms of when you're training, but for the average individual, it can be helpful.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw recently, I don't know if you follow like the NBA at all, but Kyrie Irving was just mentioned that he's doing Ramadan this year. And I'm like,
oh yeah,
how the hell does an NBA athlete not eat from sun up to sun down? That's crazy to me. That seems pretty wild, but I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't know he is, but I know what's going on right now. A client of mine, she's doing it too. And she said April's not too bad. In the summer is when it's really tough because those are the longest days of the year. So you're like not able to eat until like, I think like 10 o'clock, and then you have to stop, like first thing in the morning as that sun comes up. So the winter months are easier because you can really start like 5 and then go till like 7 at night. But yeah, no, I mean, that's amazing that he's doing it. And I'm sure he's inspiring a lot of other people too, within the culture to do such a thing.
Yeah.
And also prove that it's doable for an athlete.
Yeah, that is very cool. I mean, that's when I heard that, I was like, props to him, man, because like the NBA just playing it. Can you imagine like the effort you're exerting in an NBA game and you haven't eaten all day? That's crazy to me.
Yeah,
He's doing it, so there you go.
But kudos to him.
So just so we'll get into your sports and like your personal athletic achievements and like next, but I really want to talk about like Because I think being a nutritionist is something that's really cool because it's got to be super rewarding for you to work with people that, like, that's the thing I think people neglect the most, or may not even be neglecting on purpose. Like you said, they think they're eating healthy, or they think they're doing the right thing for themselves, and they may be just way off base. So, day to day, like, what's a day to day, like, or what's a day in the life of a nutritionist for you? Like, what's your day like?
Ooh. It's good. So because of COVID, I've pretty much become all like at home, and I love it. I love working from home. I get to go for a run and go for a bike ride, and I'm at my computer 15 minutes later, hair's all wet, and my like bowl of food is in front of me, and I'm already working. Like, it's fine.
I'll second that. Being an endurance athlete and working from home is incredible. So that was a game changer.
I don't want to.
That's great.
So that's been a huge bonus. I do teach some classes as well, and still have some personal training clients that I work with. So generally, I have a little dog. So we usually go for a little walk first. And
got your dog with you right there?
No, he's not with me at the moment. No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say show the fans. They want to see the dog.
Show the fans.
Everyone loves dogs.
He's a rescue actually from Dominican. But awesome little guy. And so we'll walk, and then I'll usually do some emails and whatnot, and then I have a few morning clients and or classes.
Okay.
And then I'll actually usually do my workout around like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And then I'll typically, I don't have any kids or anything, so I'll usually work in the afternoon and into the evening, and usually do calls in the afternoon, evening, because that's when everyone else is off work. And my other half, he's usually at the gym at this point, so it works out well. We pretty much eat dinner at 8 o'clock at night, which is late for a lot of.
That's me and my fiance. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So when he gets home, dinner is usually ready by one of us, and that's when we kind of have our chill time. So I'll usually kind of dedicate that morning slot to my workout, because I'm with other people and committing my time to other people during their end of the day.
So is it your own like personal business that you have?
I have mine, yeah. And then I also work with another lady who's fantastic, Ann Guzman. She was, ironically enough, my nutritionist at one point before I was starting to dabble in nutrition, but it's always just so nice to have like somebody else be that like feeder and help you out. Same with triathlon. Like, I have a triathlon coach, even though I write plans for other people, but it's so much nicer to have that outside perspective, looking in on you. So Ann Guzman, Nutrition Solutions, she's amazing. She's also from north of the border here in Hamilton, Ontario. And so I work with her as well.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Well, on all these shows, after I produce them, I put the links to anything we talk about in the show notes. So anybody who listens to this, we'll put your website in there. So, are you taking new clients, or I don't know, like, are you booked?
Yeah, no, I definitely am. Yeah. So for sure. So, and then there's one other company in BC that I also do some work with too. So there's kind of 3 different areas that I have my hands in. But yeah, so I definitely am willing to take on new clients right now. I know it's actually funny. A lot of my clients are from the States, because you guys are all racing right now. So they're like gearing up for the season and like all right, rock and roll. So it's funny. Whereas up here, we're like all in weight loss mode.
Yeah, you'd make a fortune in Texas just petitioning nutrition advice down here. And for us ignorant. Go ahead. I was gonna say for us ignorant Americans, you said BC, British Columbia, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. British Columbia. Yes. But no, and you guys just have a race. Did you guys have Ironman Texas or?
That is, it just happened, I think. Because there's another one. There's a couple down here. Ironman Texas, and then I think there's another one in, I forgot where. I'm not on that side of things, so I just like kind of see people doing them, but it's in one ear and out the other. But I think there just was one, and there's another one in October down here too. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was the one I did last week. It was freaking freezing. It was
really.
Yeah. Because you think Texas, you think heat, especially like I'll say where we're from. We're from the same neck of the woods ish. You know what I mean? Like Toronto, and we're how far are you from Toronto?
I'm like about 45, 50 minutes from Toronto.
North, south.
North. So the town's growing quite a bit. But we used to be like country.
So yeah, I'm from Buffalo, and it's an hour from Canada or from Toronto. So so you think Texas, you're thinking, oh, it's always hot. It's warm. Mm-hmm. It was. I woke up. It was 44 degrees on race day, and the race started at 7 a.m. So The water, I think, was like 61 degrees, so it was cold. Yeah, it was a chilly race, but I'm not going to complain because we're getting to race. It's wide open, so
Totally.
I'm grateful for that for sure. I'm actually going to Richmond, Virginia on Friday to race on Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going, with Virginia.
And is that a sprint triathlon?
Yeah, it's the world. So it was supposed to be like, I don't know how it. So actually, I do know how it is. And so in Canada, I actually raced the Toronto, like, it wasn't their national championship, but it was a world qualifying event.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was I forget, it was some festival. It was right in Toronto.
Toronto Triathlon Festival.
Yeah. So I did that one. Obviously, I wasn't trying out for Team Canada because I'm American. But here you have a national championship every year that you got to qualify for, and they take the top 10 in the age groups. Well, last year it got canceled, so they just made a specific world qualifying event. So it's not really even a national championship. So it's a world qualifying event in Richmond on Sunday to go to Bermuda in October. So
nice.
Yeah, so fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. So what was I going to say? Darn it, we got off track. About the nutrition. Oh, yeah, so you said so one of the main things you see is protein intake. Was that what you said?
Yes.
So lack of protein. So I know, like, sources of protein are never really, it's not a one-to-one. There's different, like, sources of protein that you can get, like rates of absorption and things like that.
Yeah.
Are there, what sources of protein would you suggest are there any better that are than others? Or I know you said you like steak, for instance, right? Like, you should stay away from it.
Yeah. I like steak, and that's where half your listeners who are vegetarian are like,
They go.
No, but it has so many good micronutrients. So anyways, honestly, the best ones are the ones you're going to put in your mouth. So whether you're a vegetarian, a vegan, you're a carnivore, whatever ones that you're going to eat are the best ones that you're going to get. So obviously, in saying that, you want to make sure that you're distributing your protein throughout your day, not having it all at night, not sitting down with like a piece of steak or like a whole thing of tofu or a chicken breast. You want to have that or you're going to have that, but you don't want like 6 of them. You want to have it throughout your day. So just finding things that you like, and there's a lot of extra things like, a good quality slice of toast will have 4 or 5 grams of protein in it and that's, you don't even realize that you're having protein in that. Oatmeal is another really great source for breakfast. Breakfast is the one people have the hardest trouble with. So that's why I'm listing that first. So oatmeal, toast, Greek yogurt, eggs, tossing in some chia seeds, hemp seeds, or even some nuts will have a little bit of protein as well. And then even, as you move throughout your day, you could have like lunch or dinner could be chickpeas, tofu, legumes. Specifically edamame if you're a vegetarian, vegan, or just like it, has great source of protein in it. And then aside from, your fish, steaks, chicken, all your poultry and stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I know, like, especially here, I mean, not in Texas, but in the United States.
So now I need to like understand, really immerse myself in that.
Yeah, there are not many vegetarians here in Texas, but
they like their fried chicken, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they're in Austin, but we don't really talk about Austin.
Okay.
But if you are a vegetarian, are obviously like or vegan even, if you're a little bit more strict on everything, what do you run into a lot of issues in protein ingestion, like? Do you cut like protein deficiencies and stuff like that when you work with a vegetarian, or what are your suggestions for their like sources of protein?
Sure. Yeah, it depends on the person. So there's some people who are very new to it and they just don't understand. They don't understand that it's more than just eating carrots and celery. Mm-hmm. So that's like your like really like, I guess, virgin option. But then there's those who have been like living that lifestyle and they're totally fine. They wouldn't be any more deficient, I see on the profile, than somebody who does eat meat. Gotcha. If that makes sense. So for them, it's just about how to pair that and how to increase it in different ways.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think like if you're going to be a vegan, you got to do some homework. I mean, you got to make sure that you're getting the full, spectrum of vitamins and micro and macronutrients, right?
You're right. And that's where the speculations come, is that people think, oh, you can't get everything that you get in meat. And you can. You just have to be smart about it. It's a little more difficult. Again, you got to do your research, but it's doable. And sometimes supplementing with a vegan protein powder can be what you need to help get you over the edge.
Do you deal with a lot of like vegan triathletes or endurance athletes? I'd imagine that'd be pretty hard to get what you need and do that sport.
Yeah,
too.
I haven't dealt with too many myself, personally, but they are out there. And again, it's just the fortunate thing is a lot of triathletes or endurance athletes, they can afford to eat more because they burn many more calories. So if you're looking at things like chickpeas, it has a lower quantity per serving, but they could eat more to help, boost up their overall intake. So
Gotcha. Yeah,
doable for sure. I mean, and I definitely don't push what I eat on other people. I'm very much open to what they're consuming and being respectful of that, because people will make these choices for different reasons. My job is just to guide you using the tools that you've provided me. I'll then give you tools to grow and be a better individual.
Yeah. Basically, just let them make the educated decision and see what's going to be best for them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that actually is a good question. So what do you eat like? What's your day-to-day like?
Yeah. Okay. So my breakfast, I would say 5-6 days a week. I do. People think it's gross, but I do steel cut oats with a little maple syrup and 2 eggs. So it's actually all mixed into the one. Yeah, I know. So the eggs are actually over easy too, which makes it even more gross. And I'll add salt. So I'm a very salty sweater. So I do add salt to a lot of my food because I don't eat a lot of processed foods like TV dinners or like going out to eat. Right. And then so
how did you find out that you were a salty sweater? When you get done running, do you like lick your arm or something? Or what?
Seriously, that is one like way that you can tell is like on your skin is how like grimy is it, but also on your clothes. So if you've like perspired, you see like the white stains built up on your jersey. Okay, you can tell that way as well. Yeah. So no, it's a good question. And so
I wouldn't have thought about that, but that's really interesting. Yeah, so
you're
I'm a salty sweater, and I didn't even realize it. So there you go. Thank you.
Or you sting your eyes. If your eyes sting from the sweat dripping, like those are your electrolytes too.
Every time I'm done working out, everyone thinks I'm high because my eyes are bloodshot.
Yeah. You're high from like the workout. That's about it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm just kidding.
The runner's high. So yeah, and then I usually do a morning snack, which is either cereal with almond milk. Nothing against regular milk. I just prefer I'll drink like chocolate milk, or from my parents, I'll have a glass of milk. But at home here, it's just easier on my stomach, I find, compared to regular milk. But then I'll have yogurt, so like I'm not lactose or anything. But so yeah, it's either a cereal with either almond milk or yogurt on top. Lunch and dinner, they'll flip-flop. So if I've done a morning workout, I'll usually do a heavier lunch with like either, like I'm really big into like doing burrito bowls. So instead of having like the wrap, I just get lazy and add the rice and put it all into the bowl. Pasta I'll do, or some sweet potatoes with any sorts of protein. So every once in a while I mix it up and do chickpeas and tofu, but I'm generally kind of fish, steak. Well, I eat steak about couple times a week. I make it sound like I eat it like every day, and I don't.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, I just have the cow actually outside. Like no, it's not like that at all. But yeah, steak, any kind of meat really will be the side, and then in the afternoon, oh gosh, if lunch was at 1 and I'm not eating dinner till 8, I have about 4 different snacks throughout the afternoon. And that'll be whatever is kind of accessible. Sometimes I'll bake something, but if not, it's usually cereal again, maybe a slice of toast with some nut butter. So, or honestly, I tell all my clients, like, if you're making potatoes, make extra and have them as a snack. They're great. They don't need to be just for a complement to a dinner or your lunch.
That's a good point.
Have them as snacks.
I like that.
Yeah. And then dinner or lunch, so kind of flip-flop, is usually a salad. I usually do about almost 1 salad a day. And it's not like a chintzy little salad. You've got the nuts, the seeds, the protein, usually a crunch factor. So whatever I have that I can put, whether it be croutons or just something crispy on there as well.
That sounds really good. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned cereal. What kind of cereal do you have?
Cashew, you guys have that there too. So cashew cereal. I'll do Vector. And people laugh at mini meats. So The reason being, it's actually fortified with a lot of good stuff. So the iron in it is fantastic. Yes, you get the sugar in there, but at the end of the day, for someone who is burning through all these calories and for the most part eating whole foods, like you're okay.
Right.
It's okay to have.
See, that's what I think. And I'm obviously nowhere near. I mean, I'm not a professional whatsoever, but I think just like it kind of stepping back and like seeing people, I think people get too militant with this stuff, and you got to live, right? I mean, it's just you got to look at the overall picture of your day,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I like you said that. That's cool.
Yeah, there's all about balance. Usually there's a treat in there, every once in a while. I love ice cream. So as we get into the warmer months, we'll have that a bit more. And then I usually have like 1-2 coffees a day.
Nice. I have like 50 coffees a day. That's my bugaboo. But if that's the worst thing I got going, whatever.
Yeah.
But all right, we gotta stop talking about this because I'm starving and I can't talk about food anymore. Let's talk about your training. So let's kind of switch gears here. That's the falls, isn't it? Or like right around there?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, St. Catharines. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember on the American side when you're going to Lewiston, you can see this. I forgot what war, but I just remember the statue.
Yeah.
So let's start from your beginning. Like you said, you're an athlete, obviously, and what sports did you play growing up, and what kind of drew you to endurance type sports?
Great question. So I said running I did since grade 3. I remember my second, I think, cross country race, it was like snowing and like all the sorts was coming down and my parents are there. Like she's been to almost every race. So, I mean, bless her, like she's amazing.
Shout out to mom. Shout out to mom.
I know, right? Yeah. So my dad as well. He's been very supportive too, and he'll show up at meets like wearing dress pants and stuff, and like watch me run for 10 minutes and then go back to work, kind of thing. So yeah, running I've always done, and then I was actually a figure skater for 14 years. So from when I was 4 to 18, and people don't think like they know me now, and they're like, how did you do that? But I loved it. I loved jumping. I loved just putting power into a performance. What I didn't like about it was the judge aspect. You could go out there and do a stellar performance, and if you weren't wearing the right dress or, if your hair wasn't done right, like the judges, maybe like you. And I know like the judging system is a lot better now, but if we go back to, I think it was the 2004 Olympics when they were in Salt Lake City, there was the whole Russia, Canada, Paris thing, and it was literally just like a controversy. Like it was just unfortunate that, figure skating is a great sport, but it's the judging aspect that can kind of be like, okay, well, cool. Whereas running, endurance, it's you and the clock. Like,
right.
There's no one else to blame or to, put in front of you. So
I always thought about that with like diving too. You know what I mean? You could just, same thing. You have a great dive, and then the judges think your splash was like a little too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, I still love going on the ice. I was out on the, this is very Canadian, but I was out on the pond this winter a few times and, still doing my doubles and everything, or trying to at least.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you, I was going to ask you if you still skated because I was listening to, I'm a big Joe Rogan guy. I mean, shocking.
Yeah.
I'm a 34-year-old white guy in the States, but he.
We listen to him up here too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he's just got so many cool guests on, and he had one that she I forgot her name, damn it, but she rowed across the Atlantic. Do you know this girl or no? Have you heard about this?
She rowed?
Like
I'm on a bike.
Like no, like rowed.
Or
like rowboat.
Oh.
Yeah, she did a rowboat solo. Just rowed literally across the entire Atlantic, and she does a lot of like crazy runs and stuff too. But she said that she rollerblades like a ton now because the motion in rollerblading helps strengthen your hips, and there's always a weak muscle in endurance athletes. So she said that doing that exercise has helped her endurance a lot. So I was like, I'm gonna adopt that. I'm gonna start rollerblading a lot more.
Yeah, or you see a lot of endurance athletes do cross-country skiing in the winter, and that's because of the same thing. You're working the glutes. It's still getting the heart rate up. It's like a cross-training aspect, right? So you're still working hard, but just, focusing on almost the alternative muscles that you're not using all the time during your regular sport.
Yeah.
But I still get out and skate. It's still fun. I love, like just playing music and going out there and feeling it all.
That's so cool. And for those that don't know, that live in like, southern states where it never snows or anything, like going out on the pond is a really cool experience. It definitely is. When people say they hate the snow in the winter, like I hate like the 7 months of it sometimes.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some value in when the dead of winter when you go out there, it's just quiet and it's just you and yourself and your thoughts. There's definitely value to that I do miss living down here. But all right, so keep going. We got off track a little bit, but all right, go ahead.
So then so in elementary school and high school, like my parents were really good. They never really said no to me doing like team sports or trying out at least. So I did volleyball in public school and in basketball in both public and high school. And then I was also on the track team, cross country team, rugby, which I know is like another. My mom did not really like watching that one. There's a few games she missed there because she couldn't bear seeing me get like pummeled.
I played rugby too, so I definitely I played at the University of Buffalo. So my mom did the same thing. She'd go and just cover her eyes. She didn't want to see me.
I know, yeah. So, but I mean, running is what she's always loved watching me do. So I did all throughout high school. I did mainly steeplechase in 3,000 for track. I love steeplechase, and then triathlon. I started. Pardon me?
That's a cool sport, the steeplechase.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun. You get to get wet and get like refreshed every lap. I mean, what's not to love? And then I started triathlon when I was 14. So do the math. I'm 30 now, and I fell in love with it. My mom, she kind of registered me in a local race, and I did good. And obviously, when you do good at something, it kind of makes you want to do it more. Mm-hmm. And so I did that race actually on a rental bike. I rented like a real road bike.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the following year is when I actually started doing like more and more. And I guess I want to say it was maybe 20 or so where I want to do an Ironman. Like that's my goal. So I had other coaches, but I wanted a coach who has lived Ironman, like done it, breathed it. And so my coach is Sherry Fraser, and her brother actually is the one who started Ironman, like Lake Placid, Ironman Canada. So and then sold the business off. So she raced all the time, all over the place, and was very knowledgeable. So I did my first one when I was 24, qualified for Kona, did the whole Kona thing.
Did you?
Yeah,
really?
I know.
That's amazing. What was that? So for those who don't know, explain what getting to Kona actually means.
So Kona is the Ironman World Championships. It's held, the Ironman distance has always been in Kona every year, and you have to qualify. So I qualified up here in Ontario. It was my first Ironman race, and I got lucky or trained really well. I don't know.
I'm gonna go with trained really well. You don't accidentally finish a 10-hour race.
Yeah. So and then it was a loop course, and we had a bunch of other like athletes that are coached by the same lady as me, and it was awesome because you'd see them out in the course, and I did my second loop for the run, and people are already like, you know what, like you just have to keep moving. Like you have a big enough lead. You just have to keep moving. And I mean, even now I got like goosebumps, but like that whole
I have goosebumps hearing that. I get goosebumps hearing that stuff. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. My dad was about maybe a kilometer away from the finish, and then my mom was at the finish, and I just remember like he was filming it, and I like gave him a big hug. I'm like, we're going to Kona. So yeah, it was awesome.
What
like when you're that close to a kilometer and you know you can finish, you have the confidence at that point. You're not gonna keel over. But
so how long did it take you? What was your time? Do you remember?
Oh, it was bad. Well, I shouldn't say that. It was I was over 11 and a half hours, so it was a long. But yeah, no, it was good, and it's a hilly course. I don't know. People might know Muskoka area, but it's like the elevation's insane. So definitely, a tough first Ironman.
So and qualifying means that like it's based on your placement, right? So it's like you were.
It is, yeah.
What place did you come in?
For my age category,
yeah.
I came first. So you had for my age category, there's only one spot, so it was one or none.
Unbelievable.
And
That's
then
awesome.
so I did it. Yeah, so it's fun, but yeah, it's a good experience, that's for sure. And I was hoping to do another one and possibly go once more before maybe other life factors take over, but we'll see what COVID brings.
yeah. This kind of tossed everything on its head, right? I mean, it's been a
it does,
for endurance athletes.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and I'm not even training for the Olympics. Like those are the athletes I really feel for.
Yeah, it's been a tough year. I mean, I got like my bike sucked because I've always been I've never been an endurance athlete. I mean, we just met before this, but I played professional indoor football in all my 20s. So we actually there was a Canadian All-Star team and an American All-Star team, and we played in Toronto. And yeah, so I've been up there playing arena football and stuff, and I know like I've met some of the Argonauts. Like I played kind of cross paths with them. We had a group from Toronto that would come down and play our arena league with us too. So it's
neat.
yeah. So I've never been an endurance athlete. So my cycling sucked, and I was like, this year I'm just gonna go all in on Zwift and just like you can see my bike behind me, and I hammer that like every day.
Good.
Yeah. But so, what was Kona like? It had to be just incredible.
It's everything incredible and horrible at the same time. Like, it's what they say. The winds are there, the heat is there, and being up here in Canada, we lose that heat come the end of August, whereas like other athletes are still training in the heat. So to acclimatize and everything is a lot too. But the experience was amazing. Like, and you see the pros out there on the same course riding, and they're hours ahead of you, but it was really cool. And I say I need to go back to redeem myself, because it is when it's your first experience at that island. Even the pros will say it too. It takes time to learn the island and understand the race, and I feel like I just need another shot at it.
Could you imagine
it was
being
awesome.
like one of those first people to do that, like the 80s or whenever they started doing that?
Yeah.
Like, just no idea training, like just doing it. They're eating bread, like you said, on the course. They don't know what the hell's going on, and they're just grinding. That's crazy.
Exactly. It's so true.
So you did, and I was going to ask you too, because you said your first one was when you were 14 years old.
Yeah.
Right? You said that. So that's what, 2005? You're a 14-year-old girl?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, triathlon itself wasn't even that big in like 2005. And then for a 14-year-old girl to be out there doing it, I mean, you had to be like like one of not many like young girls out there doing that, right?
I was young for sure. But you know what? People may not realize this, but for triathlon, they actually will write your age on your cap. Mm-hmm. So people also know that you're in their age category and all that stuff. And the support at some of these other races was incredible. Like they would see that I'm at this point maybe 16, 17 years old, and I'm killing up a hill, and they're oh, good job and all that stuff. So the support aspect was really helpful too. But as I said, the support from my parents was also really great. Driving me to all these races. I still, if they drove me to a race, I would still be sleeping in the back seat, and I show up at the race an hour before. And I'm let's go. So it was something that again I was good at. It brought a lot of pieces together. I grew up with a cottage, so being in the water, I love. I loved just swimming and all that stuff. So biking, we all bike as a kid, and running was just something that I've always loved doing. So the sport made sense for me, and I would say I'm not excelling in any of them particularly. Each season it might be something that's a little better than the other, but as a whole I can put that package together. That's
funny that you just mentioned that, because I was every time I talk to someone about triathlon, it seems like every person I've ever talked to is just oh, I'm definitely I'm a really good swimmer, or they have one, and you were just I love all of them, and I'm not really great, the best at any of them, but I put it together and I'm okay. Do you have a favorite? Or it just seems like you like all of them.
Ooh. The swim is my favorite because it's the area that nothing can go wrong. I would say comparatively to other people, I'm probably one of the strongest swimmers. I'm usually top percentage out of the water compared to other people. So I guess if I'm comparing to everyone else, it's probably my best part. And it's also, like I said, it's an area that you don't have to start thinking about what I'm going to eat. You just kind of swim, and if you get on good feet and drag behind somebody, bonus. Whereas the bike, there could be mechanical issues. There could be drafting, making sure you're not staying, or you're not right behind somebody to get tickets and all that kind of stuff. Or there's the feed zones that you got to go through. And then the run, gosh, there's some races you're just hanging on for dear life. Other races, you're I'm killing it. I'm going after this. I remember my best time for a half Ironman off the bike was a 1:32 half marathon. And I felt like I was
That's
on
incredible.
fire. Like,
Holy cow.
thank you. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm generally around that, like, yeah, about when I would say now more about 135 to 145, depending on the course, really. But that was actually Kona year, so I was in the best shape of my life. Like everything was like coming together. But yeah, and it's just, you know, those days where everything clicks. You're like, hell yeah, like this is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that's
and
amazing.
It's not always like
that's
that.
Really good. Wow, that's pretty damn impressive.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, when you were like, yeah, when you're, you know, swimming, nothing can go wrong. You know, unless you drowned. You know, you're in the middle of a lake.
Yeah, no, it's true. That does happen.
Yeah,
but,
it happened in a race that I when I moved down here from Buffalo. The national championships for sprint were in Cleveland, so we just stopped there and kept driving down to Texas, and they switched it because, as you know, living on the Great Lakes, there's whitecaps. You know? Yeah, and a guy died in the lake, the race in the Olympic the day before, so they turned it to a duathlon for the championships. But yeah, I'd rather run, bike, run than try to, you know, battle whitecaps.
Yeah, no, for sure, and safety needs to be first. So,
yeah, for sure. So you did the one in Canada that qualified you for Kona. Obviously, you did Kona, and then which other ones have you done?
Those are only two. So I was supposed to do Wisconsin in 2020. Pushed it to Tulsa 2021, but with the closures and everything, it's just not going to happen this year.
So you're just a beast. You're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my first one, go to the World Championship, crush it, and call it a day. Bada boom, bada bing.
I know. Yeah. At that point, I'm 25. I've accomplished everything I want to accomplish, and
that's amazing. So when you look for races, do you have any like for me, for instance, I'll see a random race, like the Xterra, right? The Xterra triathlon series.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, I want to do that. And then I'll see like some ultra race, you know, and I'll be like, oh, I want to do that. And obviously you can't just do all these things. Like you need to train for them and peak. And so do you have like a next endeavor that you're looking at, or like anything that you haven't done that's interested you?
Well, it's funny you bring up Xterra because I definitely want to dabble in that. My boyfriend got me a mountain bike for Christmas this past year. Ooh. And I love it. Yeah, and I love it. Like I've done actually, again, yeah, I really just throw myself into things. So I've done 2 mountain bike races. One of them was a 24-hour mountain bike race team that I was on with a team of 5. So I rode at 12 p.m., 5 p.m., 11 p.m., and then 5 a.m. So it was like, but like I just get on a bike and I go, you know, whatever. But yeah, so now I have the mountain bike, it's mine. I really want to do an Xterra at some point. I would still like to do another Ironman. It's just, it does take a lot of time out of your day in training. Like you do those, you know, 6-hour bike rides on a Saturday. And your overall bulk of training can be up to 20 hours or more. Really, more it would be ideal, but 20 hours can kind of be manageable with still doing a job. But
yeah, and that's where, like, when that's why I never really did endurance sports. Not that I'm, like, jacked or anything, but I always thought to be an endurance athlete, you had to be, like, a stick. You know what I mean? Like, you had to be, like, this crazy skinny, and that's what, like, I never... Yeah, and then... I don't know if you've ever heard of Chris Gethin, because I really enjoy lifting weights. So I go to the gym every day, and I do a lot of, like, functional stuff, and I follow all these programs that...
Amazing.
I'm not just going in there and like bench pressing. You know what I mean? It's calculated. It's for athleticism. But I never want to give that up. So like that's why with the Ironman training, it would be like throw, you know, at least an hour and a half a day of like lifting in there too. It's like I can't work then. You know?
Right. No, for sure. And nor should you give that up. I mean, you do need to have the functional strength and the muscle for that as you get closer to the race itself. And these are what a lot of athletes will do, is that they do reduce the amount of strength training that they're doing and shift that to more swim, bike, run focus. But you still want that power. You still want to keep that muscle. It's just your body, yes, might change a little bit and whatnot. And it's funny, like my other half, he mainly does like powerlifting. So I'm like this, and he's like, but like muscle, like exactly, like totally. He's like so super strong. And our training styles are very different. So you can have, I'm saying like basically like you can, do what you want to do, but you just have to figure out what your main goal is. And if your main goal is to do an Ironman, well, maybe we put that strength training off for, a couple months or reduce it at least, and then get back to it once you checked off that goal box.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that I mentioned in the intro when we brought you on was you're a fellow member of the On Run crew. So we got to talk about that. So what got you into On? Like what got you? And keep in mind, we're not paid. We do this because we like it. Okay, so don't come at me. What got you into the brand? Like I always find it interesting to hear how people discovered it.
Yeah, so I've had a couple pairs of shoes in the past. And then, great, love them. And then for the ambassador program, so I do run clinics here in my hometown. So she's actually like a huge On person and loves the brand. She's always decked out in it. And she sent me it back in like December. She's like, you should apply for this. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know. Like you always think like, am I the right fit or am I good enough kind of thing? That self-doubt comes into your mind.
Yeah, I feel you. Yep.
Yeah. So I applied and then, I was one of the ones selected for the north of the border North American crew. And so it's been good. I mean, and some of the campaigns they run are amazing. They're a Swiss company and my cousins so it would be my uncle is actually Swiss. So he's straight from Swiss. My cousins were born in Switzerland.
Oh, cool.
So they were like, oh, this is sweet. Like, a nice mature company because they've only been around for 10 years or so, but they were pretty excited about it as well.
Wow, that's neat. So what's your favorite shoe that, did you do your Ironmans in On?
I did not actually at the time. No, because that was I know they've been around long enough. But I remember them having this big booth there. And that's kind of when I first really actually got introduced to the brand too, which would have been about like 5 years ago now. 2016 I did that. So no, I don't. I didn't wear On during that race.
Which, just out of curiosity, what shoes did you wear for your Ironman?
A6. I was wearing A6.
I was never a fan of A6. I never liked those.
No, some of them are better than others. They did change their mod, like their foot pad model. So I really just use some of their racing flats now. But I'm very lucky. I kind of can run in anything. I've had Under Armours and been fine. Nikes, not the Nike Freeze though. Those were a little too flimsy for me. Right. So, but then back to On. I mean, the one I like the most would be the Cloud Flow.
Okay, that was my first shoe. That's how I got introduced to On was the Cloud Flow. So that was my first experience with them. Yeah.
And, I mean, their color schemes are so nice too. And when I share like to other people about the brand, they're like, oh, like they're so like nice and soft and like not too flashy for most of them. And
it's cool. I work out at the Dallas Cowboys practice facility. Like Jerry Jones like built this whole like city, and the Cowboys practice facility is where I'm at literally every day, and it's crazy to see the amount of people wearing Ons just at this gym. It's wild, and it's growing for sure. So I'm always talking to people, and I'm always interested to hear how they got it because there's no commercials. I mean, you don't really like see many ads and stuff like that. So.
I don't even watch TV, so.
Neither do I. But even like Facebook ads and stuff, I don't see anything, But it's cool. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan, obviously, but I'm looking to. I wear the Clouds for the sprints, but I don't think I'd be able to wear those for like an Ironman per se. I need something a little heavier, like the.
Right. See, I like a minimal shoe. So I quite like to have as little as possible, kind of under my feet.
Do you wear like?
Everyone's different. No, I don't.
Interesting.
No.
I always ask that too, just because like I never used to, but then I started to, and now I don't think I ever not will.
Maybe that's an over 30 thing. I just skipped the 30, so maybe I gotta learn still, right?
It's an old man thing. Faux show. Way to call me out. Thanks.
Sorry.
No. I'm just teasing. But I mean, we've been talking for over an hour now, so I think it might be, you've offended me, so I'd like to end the show and go cry in the corner. So. No, but it really, I mean, it was really, really interesting, your story and getting to know you, and well, like I said, we'll put your links in the show notes after I produce this, and
sure.
I don't plan any questions. I don't prepare anything. I mean, obviously, I knew a little bit about you. That's why I had you on. But is there anything that you
Yeah.
were prepared to talk about that we didn't talk about, or anything you'd like to any last words that you'd like to put out there to anyone thinking about getting into nutrition or triathlon? Or anything like that?
Yeah. Not really. I mean, coming from someone who's done like 8 years of school, just, never be afraid to, I guess, go back in terms of the school aspect. And then for triathlon, you just have to, I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but you just have to try, get your feet in there. And if that's not your thing, then running is super accessible, which is why I love it. I can go to any city and put on a pair of shoes and head out the door and explore. It's an amazing way to see a new place because you see it at a slower pace than if you're driving in your car. So, and you get to more accessible places. So yeah, I mean, I always have my running shoes with me and I encourage other people to do the same.
I love that. Well, Brittany, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone for listening, and looking forward to following. Once I'll send good vibes your way to Canada. Hopefully, you guys can open up and get at least one more Ironman in before life starts to happen a little bit more. So.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great night.